We're really glad to get an update on Amazma and how things are going. And on this Zoom call, we have Katie Majors and Larissa Rakasisi. I got that right?
Yes, you got it right.
Yeah, and of course, you know Katie. She's our founder and visionary. And Larissa is our new Uganda country director, who we are just so thrilled to have Larissa on our team. And then Doug Martin, who is our CEO. And I'm Derek Bell, the managing director of the stateside team. And the reason that we're doing this Zoom call is that we know Amazma has so many ministry partners, and you're not just ministry partners in a financial sense, but you care desperately about our ministry. We've gotten a lot of calls and questions about what's going on in Uganda, and we want to give you an update straight from the folks who are on the front line. And so we've asked Katie and Larissa to be a part of this. And then Doug also will tell a little bit about what's going on in the U.S. So let's just jump in. Katie and Larissa, tell us about life in Uganda right now and how this whole coronavirus pandemic is affecting life in Uganda.
Okay. One of probably the biggest things for us is that schools all across Uganda have been closed. So about a week ago, we were pretty sad to have to send home our students when they were about halfway through the first term of the year. But we're so blessed with so many really amazing staff who were able to put together take-home packets and things to send home for the students so that they would have to have something to work on. And we anticipate that when schools do open back up, we'll still try to complete the full school calendar, but just do it in longer terms than what we're used to. But we certainly miss having them on campus. Similarly, a lot of our staff have not been able to come into work because of different movement restrictions. But Larissa has even done a great job making sure that our staff are well provided for. We were able to send home packages of food for people so that they felt like they could still care for their families during this time. I know that our social work team is working really hard to try to connect with our sponsored kids through telephone calls and text messages, and just try to use technology to its biggest advantage and keep us connected during this time. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's really good. Yeah.
I think we just Katie and Larissa, how did it feel to you guys sending the students home from the school, which is an environment that there's a lot of space, a lot of the potential for some social distancing, great hygiene, to send the students back into the community where there's just a lot more density? Like, what did that feel like?
Well, I think the thing is it's normal to send them home every holiday, and so that is their normal. And so sure. there wasn't necessarily we didn't feel anxious about that, but I think that what was a bit upsetting was just the fact that their school year had been interrupted as well. Yes, you're right. Just in terms of some of the restrictions, it would mean that they would be in close quarters with a lot of with their families and other people, and therefore the spread could be potentially worse. But the interesting part is that we had really started the year with going through the book of James and just looking at suffering and challenges and just having joy in the suffering and the fact that yes, suffering will happen, but God is in control. And it's amazing how God does it. So it was all dovetailed, and we'd gone through just a few weeks of that and just talking about the importance of trusting in God and leaning on him and making sure that you don't necessarily connect suffering and just say it's because I've done something wrong, but in the suffering, right, it's leaning on God. And so that was really, really powerful. So we felt like we had sent them back with a spiritual package, as it were. Just that sense that they had that assurance that God was on their side, and that we they'd got scriptures, and there was just this real sense that they'd gone prepared, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, even as I think of that and think of them going home, as much as we were sad to start, I mean, we just kind of called it starting the holiday break a little bit early. And as much as we were sad to start that break a little bit early, I feel like they honestly, I think, are going to be such an encouragement to their families during this time. And I hope they can take what they've been learning from scripture and even share that with whoever they're staying with right now, their parents or their guardians or their neighbors, that they're able to encourage their communities in that.
And I think the thing that has really been helpful is that, you know, we've got some child-headed homes, and we've got some vulnerable families, but, you know, really God's been gracious, and even through just what we've been able to provide for those families ahead of time. So before the movement restrictions, we were able to give, you know, packages of food and nutritional support for some of those children. So that has been such a blessing, and we really couldn't have done it without, you know, donations and people just giving stuff. So deeply grateful that we are in a position to give and be generous as well at this time.
And it did feel very timely. School was closed about a week and a half before these other movement restrictions were put on. And so our social work teams were really able to go into the homes and visit people and make sure they were doing okay, kind of one last time, and check on all our students before movement was kind of shut down. So.
And for a lot of the students, somehow we're able to connect with them via cell phone over this break.
I think for most of them,
yes,
there are probably some who don't have access to a cell phone, but I feel like most people here, even if it's just not a smartphone or anything, you know, just a little cell phone, they can still receive a text message or a phone call.
And the mentors made sure that the children in child-headed homes were given solar phones, so solar powered phones, so that we could interact with them and just see that they're okay on a weekly basis. So they don't need electricity. Most of them don't have electricity in their homes in terms of our kids. So these solar powered phones are fantastic. And what we've decided to do is that we're going to start calling the parents who have phones and speak to the whole family and almost do like a home visit, but through the phone, and just to say, how's mom, how's dad, or, you know, how are the children, what's happening. So there's just this we're really working on making sure that the connectivity and communication continues in that way.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you guys are talking about the importance of ongoing relationship, even though they're not on campus. You know, our ministry, it's so much bigger than education. It's about, you know, the students and transforming lives and their relationship with Christ and the impact in the community. So I'm really grateful how you guys are committed to a plan that says we want to keep relationship even though we've got some distance. You know, you've said something several times though that I think might be interesting to hear just a little bit more on, but you've used the term restriction of movement. And, you know, in the States, a lot of us are kind of, some are on actually like a stay at home directive by our state governments, but a lot of us are just at home, working at home regardless. What do you mean when you talk about restriction of movements? What does that look like in Jinja where we're serving?
So we've kind of been given new restrictions every few days by the government. It seems like they're really trying to get ahead and prevent the spread of the virus, which of course is really super important. But for right now, everybody's really just been asked to stay at home as much as possible unless movement is essential. So you're still allowed to go to get food or go seek medical transportation. Some people are still going to work. Most people are being encouraged to work at home if at all possible, or even to find lodging at your workplace if you're working in like a larger factory or something like that. But for the most part, everybody's being asked to stay home and try to not be interacting with lots of different people, no gathering in groups more than 5 right now. And so of course our social workers are not able, for their own safety or because of legal ramifications, they're not able to go in and out of these different homes and do home visits because they would I mean, it would be dangerous for them, and it would also be dangerous for the families who they're visiting.
Yeah. And so, and cars are not, we're not allowed to use personal cars. And we're not allowed to be, there's no public transport either. So the motorbikes that, if anyone has come to Uganda, they're called boda bodas, and they used to transport people, but now it's only transporting produce on that. So yeah, so the restriction movement is basically you have to walk, or you can use a bicycle, or you can use your own personal motorbike if you have one, but you can't use cars or public transport.
And that's countrywide, correct?
That's countrywide.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there a feeling that people are fearful of the virus?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think people are really listening to what is being said and adhering to, you know, to the rules or the guidelines that have been given to us, because, you know, people are scared, especially when they see other countries sort of people dropping like flies. That's a big thing. That's a very big thing, and it's a concern. It's a concern.
Well, and as of this morning, Uganda had 44 confirmed cases of coronavirus, and so you really have to applaud the government for proactively taking this stance. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely. And
it's definitely, I think, going to keep a lot of people safe.
Yeah.
Right. So what are, when it comes to the Amazima School and our ministry, what are your greatest challenges right now?
Wow. Great question.
I think even as we spoke of a little bit earlier, just maintaining that connection, and we have a really creative leadership team, and a couple of them met the other day, and then a couple Skyped in because we're in different places and we can't be more than 5 and these different things. But I think everybody is just trying to work together to brainstorm, how do we still love and serve this community? How do we still connect? And it feels like just another, though it will be challenging, it's just another opportunity to let these families know, like, we are with you, we are for you, like, we're not going to stop connecting with you now. I think if anything, when this is all over, these families will have an even greater sense of, oh yeah, Amazima, like, they loved us during that time and they supported us during that time, and they were still concerned about us and concerned about our well-being, and they were still checking in. And so I hope our students feel that even though they're not at school and we're not seeing them every day, we are missing them and we are thinking about them and we're praying for them. But I hope also, you know, that their families feel that as well, that we're here to support the whole family too.
Yeah. And I think obviously sometimes there's the real challenge of, you know, you would love to be, as Katie said, to be sort of going and visiting homes, you know, and seeing that they're okay. And, you know, we just lost a Jaja, a grandmother recently, and there was nothing that we could do, you know, in terms of going and burying. And so there's that whole social construct that seems to have been sort of like, it's gone down. And of course, we're in Uganda, it's a very social environment. And so that's the hard part, you know, not to be able to grieve with someone and go to their homes and be with them and, you know, hold them through some of those challenging times. But I think that the one thing that is so important is recognizing that God is right at the center of it all, and that people's prayers are literally what's keeping you know, people's hearts afloat. And so I'm just so grateful. We're grateful for those prayers. Because, you know, there's just a lot of vulnerable families. There's a lot of children that are in child-headed homes that, you know, you want to be able to you know, hold a little bit more and make sure that they're okay. And so the one thing we're trying to do is to get a sticker so that we can see how we can keep on delivering to some of those vulnerable families that we're supporting in a much sort of greater way. You know, we're just praying that, you know, some of our children that are epileptic, that they won't have any fits in just these different spaces, that we can't get through to them. So there's just some of those vulnerable families and children that we need to, that we'd really love prayer for. You know, I think there's the challenges.
When you say getting a sticker, are you talking about getting a sticker for a vehicle so that we can get around?
A special kind of government approved sticker that will let one of your vehicles move, or move for medical emergencies or special purposes.
So, Doug, tell us about what's going on the state side with the stateside team.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, before though I jump into that, Derek, I just want to affirm the work that Larissa and Katie and the leadership team are doing in Uganda. I mean, it's clear that they are out ahead of the issue, and in terms of providing plans and processes and caring for our students and our staff, and just really grateful for strong leadership. It makes all the difference in the world. And you know, it's kind of funny in a sense that every time I talk with Larissa, and we speak very frequently, I'll call and say, hey, what's going on with this? Or have you thought about this? And I think I've kind of landed on some unique thing, or, you know, just insight. And she's always like, yeah, we've already thought about that. And here's our 4-step plan and how we're going to handle that. And it's such an encouragement to me, and I know to the ministry in general, that our leadership is on top of it. And so that's a real encouragement. In the States, you know, what we feel like we can do more than anything else is pray. All of our staff is working at home. This is the beginning of our 3rd week working at home. And so we're spending our time in prayer. We're spending our time talking with a lot of you, talking to a lot of the ministry partners. And, you know, in these calls that we're making, we're just calling to check in. We're calling just to see how we can pray for you and your families. And it's been a real encouragement, one, just to hear your response, your passion for what we're doing at Amasma, but just a willingness to be vulnerable and open, and to share prayer requests with us, to allow us to pray for you, and then you asking us for prayer requests. It's been a really sweet thing, and it's something that has really been a blessing to us to be able to connect with ministry partners in that way. And so that's really what we've been doing. You know, we believe it's really important to connect. And you know, one of the things that we've been talking about, just leadership in general in the States and Uganda, is like it's so important for us to make sure that we're caring for our families well, we're caring for our community, and that might be our churches, our neighbors, our ministry partners, but how do we care for them? And how do we care for the ministry of Amasma? Those 3 things held in balance during this time. And so while it's weird and it's awkward to be working at home, you know, just kind of what Katie and Larissa said, it's opened up some opportunities for us to care for the people that we're in relationship with in a way that we weren't or couldn't before. And so we see God's hand in that, and we're excited about it. But that's kind of how we're responding here from the stateside offices.
Mm-hmm. And in the midst of that, we're taking care of everything that we need to at the office, checking voicemails, checking the mail, all those sorts of things. So Katie and Larissa, you mentioned specifically getting that sticker from the government so that someone from Amasma can move around freely to visit students, that kind of thing. What are some other specific prayer requests that we can pray for you?
Sorry, just a quick thing about that sticker. It's not such we can get it. It's not a problem, but it's not to visit students. It's more about, you know, if there's a medical emergency that we would use, we want to use that sticker for emergency. So that's something that we would use, because obviously we've got our nurses. We have a clinic that's near our sort of original space. We'd love prayer for those nurses, protection for them, because they're literally at the front line. We've chosen to remain open, and they feel it as a duty of care, so that our kids can actually walk to that clinic with any other sort of presenting illnesses. Obviously, apart from COVID-19, there's malaria that can come in. You know, there's all sorts of different, you know, diseases really that can come and attack our kids' health. So them being there is huge. So please pray for them. That would be amazing in terms of our nurses.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think along with that, even prayers for some of our more vulnerable students. I mean, we do have children in our program who have HIV or tuberculosis or epilepsy, some different things going on that are being treated, but they're more immunocompromised than most. And so any sickness is more devastating to them. And so the thought of something like coronavirus kind of spreading throughout the communities is a bit scary, but we're just thankful for what the government's done to really stop the spread, and hopeful that God will just continue to protect these kids and that they'll have access to the care that they need, but ultimately that his hand would just protect them. So prayers for the more vulnerable in our program is a big one. And then I think also just prayers for continued unity in our team. I feel like so far we've been really united, really even, I think, encouraging one another and just bouncing ideas off of one another. And you can just see everybody trying to think really creatively about how to care for each other, how to care for our staff who aren't coming to work, how to care for the students and families in our program. And it's a lot of fun and a huge blessing to be part of a team that is of one mind and that is just really coming up with all kinds of great ideas for how to care for people. So I do hope that we'll just continue to be united and not feel discouraged or defeated by having to do ministry in a different way, but really just look at it as an opportunity to connect with these families differently. And like you're saying, Doug, I mean, what an opportunity for anybody in any place of the world to just spend time in prayer. I mean, I've been so convicted in my own life because I think Larissa also, probably all of us on this call, I really like to be productive. I really feel a lot of worth when I'm productive, and to go like, hey, there's not a lot you can do right now, but really just like seek the face of God.
Right.
And so, I hope that we can do that as a team.
Yeah. One of our ministry partners convicted me. He said, Doug, I would challenge you that for every article that you read about the coronavirus online, you ought to read one chapter of scripture.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, thanks a lot. That's I don't need the conviction, but it was so true. I mean, that's how we don't operate in fear. And this can really take us back to the heart of God, and he will do amazing things.
Anything personal?
Oh, well, we're also just talk about the nation.
I was just going to say, even as I'm talking about vulnerable children and families that our program is connected to, just to ask for prayer for the nation of Uganda. I mean, so there is likely to be a food shortage at some point in the near future. And so many of our friends and neighbors and just people in this country rely on their farms for survival. So a lot of prayers just that this would be a good growing season, that there would be a good harvest ahead for when markets are not as stocked or people can't get to the markets. There are a lot of people here who work on a daily wage. They get paid per day, and what they take home is what they have to feed their families with. And so for many of those who have not been able to commute to work because of the public transportation stopping or just the distance, there will be hardship coming up. Just I feel like this time has just made me even more aware of just how fortunate I am, because no matter what terrible manner of things happens to me because of this illness, I can't drive my car, I can't go to the grocery store or this and that. There are people who just will have a hard time surviving. And so we just want to pray for Uganda as a nation, that people would have what they need, that God really would pour out his provision, and that the nation would remain strong.
And if you have
Yeah.
specific questions for Amazma, go to amazma.org and scroll all the way down to the footer, and you'll see a contact us button. And that's got all the contact information you could want. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible with answers. Katie and Larissa, thank you so much. And Doug,
Yeah.
thank you. And to our ministry partners, thank you for your continued prayers. We're grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Katie and Larissa, you guys, thanks. You guys are just killing it. That's actually a bad way to say it, isn't it? You guys are just
in at home.
you guys are doing a great job. Thanks for your leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Hey, Derek, just from the call perspective, with you getting dropped off, did that do anything to capturing the recording of this, or?
Yeah, when I dropped off, it stopped the recording.
Oh,
Yeah.
it said recording. It carried on recording.
The whole time.
It was saying recording. We carried on talking. We talked about world peace. We kind of, you know.
And wouldn't you know it, it's the internet access. The internet access in Brentwood, Tennessee gives us issues, not in Uganda.
What? That's extraordinary.